Hey there folks, how's it going? SociopathicOtter here, and it's time for some more Chrono Trigger. You get it? Time travel. Great, let's come through here. And I got trapped by those henches, well played. What was that? That sound was definitely interesting. Great, so I would rather attack these henches. Can I get them a little closer? There we go. And then Frog and Luca can actually attack those guys directly. Chrono is really like a one-man army at this stage in time, and it gets better later on. Great. So since I'm going to use the shelter so I can use the triple attack on the boss coming up, I may as well try and see if I can use up some MP on my non-Chrono characters. So Glenn's going to heal himself, and Luca is going to use Flame Toss to make quick work of these Nagas over here. So it turns out they're just weak to fire. Cool. Chrono takes care of that one instead of cycloning like I should have, but that's okay because he doesn't actually have any MP. Wow, that was pretty interesting. It kind of looked like Shovel Knight's pogo stick attack to me when he attacked Glenn for a sec there. Wonderful, and that's that. Alright, we've got the henches who are coming after me in a pretty intelligent way, not necessarily backing down. So I guess I've got to take care of these guys too. Let's see, Chrono can't Cyclone, so I'm just going to have to go for the good old-fashioned Flame Toss, apparently. I was thinking more along the lines of mashing A until they died, but I guess I could heal them. that definitely works too. There we go. So, random criticals just feel super duper gratifying. Bam! Okay, I thought the hench would die, I guess not. One more hit from Chrono, I'll have to do it. Great. So that's that. Let's go ahead and save, and I do believe... Goodness gracious, I keep hitting start. Let's go ahead and save, and I do believe I have a shelter. So I'm going to use that. Oh, I have a power tab. Wow, that's awesome. So power tabs permanently increase your strength by 1, which means Chrono is definitely getting that one. Oh, it increases by 2? How interesting. And then I'll be using a shelter here as well. Great. That merits another save. I don't know why the SNES version actually tracks your save count, but it does. And after that, we should be ready to confront the boss. There's actually a skip you can do called Yakra skip, where you completely skip this first boss, but I don't feel like doing that. I haven't done it in years. We have Supersonic Purple Queen Lean and our mint chocolate chip Frog against the Chancellor, the Red Chancellor. This dude has definitely been eating too much red meat. Either that or he's bathed himself in blood. Alright, he's changing into his true form. You haven't even seen my final form. It's also mint chocolate chip. Yakra definitely does not look like this in the main game, by the way. Or in the unpatched game. The boss battle music is also pretty cool, by the way. Just the sense of epicness and the grand scale it lends the battle is pretty cool. I don't believe I've seen that tech before. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Alright. Do I want to use it again? Nah, I'm not feeling that. Let's go ahead and Fire Sword, and then I'll attack with Black. So, there's definite strategy involved in terms of how to manage your characters so that you're healing the right way, you're attacking the right way, and your DPS is generally as optimized as it can be. While still being entertaining for the viewers, of course, because I don't want to just spam the triple attack again and again and again. Oh goodness gracious, that was a pretty big hit to Glenn there. So I'll have him heal himself, and then maybe Fire Whirl with Chrono and Luca. Nice. That's another one. And that's that. That's the fight. Cool. Glad I was able to show off Delta Storm at least once, and that I was able to make pretty quick work of the boss. We're posing, and we're moving back into the overworld. Cool. And Chrono Trigger's iconic victory music plays. Cool. So Chrono Trigger is kind of like Final Fantasy VI in the sense that it doesn't hesitate to remove characters as the story wants it to, but at the same time, it does eventually bring them back at the very end. Here's the real Chancellor. As you can see, I'm undamaged, and he just runs after His Majesty. And we've got a Dream Bow, which is going to be pretty awesome for Marle when she joins the party. Cool. Nothing else to report, so we are out of this dungeon. Let's return to the castle. You had me worried, Lee. And why was he worried? Oh, because he thought Queen Sonic was gonna die. And here is Frog's theme. The fact that I keep listing music and kind of saying, this is X's theme, this is the theme that plays when Y happens. I feel like the fact that the game is so distinctive and has burned itself into my mind has less to do with the fact that it's my favorite game, and more to do with the fact that it's so distinctive and so powerful at making these events memorable. Anyway, so Mint Chocolate Chip Frog here is definitely a self-imposed regulation kind of guy. He is not necessarily the most lenient on himself. We must create a criminal justice system in this kingdom. So the dialogue is very salient and very relevant in this game because it drops little hints for what's about to happen. Where's the girl who was mistaken for me? Oh yeah, I forgot all about Princess Nadia. Very nice. So we're gonna go and grab her. But before that, we must create a criminal justice system. It's pretty interesting to see what Chrono Trigger does with that. So anyway, up we go. Is this actually where I'm supposed to go? I really don't remember. Oh, it is. Great. And Satan's back. It was awful. I can't recall at all. Is that what it's like to die? So when you die, you totally destroy the laws of physics? That's pretty interesting. Alright, so Satan's been caught. He is actually a she, and she is actually a princess. And now we've got a melancholy theme playing. Her father is XXXIII, which I believe is 33. You wouldn't have shown me around the fair, right? Even this decision actually matters. The fact that Chrono Trigger subverts your expectations by taking the typical JRPG trend of, oh, dialogue doesn't matter, and actually flipping that on its head? Yeah, that's cool. Wrong. I would have shown you around the fair, because I like happy animations in this game more than sad animations. Love that melody. Alright, so we're gonna go ahead and head down this flight of stairs and go home victorious. So Meruem, Purple Genius, and Satan are all out of here. 'Twas a fault of mine. It's kind of interesting, actually. In the Japanese version... Okay, is the princess gonna kiss the frog? That's very cliche. Just kidding. He's just going to look at the princess. Well, close enough. You have the potential to be a good swordsman. Hath and had sound pretty similar, so... This was actually a pretty interesting tidbit, so I'm quite glad that I had the foresight to think about it, because it's a pretty interesting example of how localization of games, whether it be from Japanese to English or any other translation, can tend to change the way we perceive characters. So, in the Japanese version, Frog speaks rather formally, but he doesn't speak abnormally in any way. He says things like, oh, let's check the door over there. And he says it in a formal and detached way, but it's not necessarily an abnormal way. This is in contrast to the English version and the SNES translation, where Frog very directly says words like environs and mayhap that sound very Old English and don't necessarily fit in with the lexicon of modern day English. So it's really interesting to me that this tiny little detail that I found on Legends of Localization, by the way, it's this website where these people kind of comb through video game translations and see how the art changes from language to language. It was really interesting to me to see how Frog changed from the Japanese translation to the English translation, and how that impacted his character as we saw that change in the English version. So, because Frog speaks with a more formal and more detached tone, it makes the time period seem more authentic and more interesting in the English version, but also nobody else talks like that at the time, so the Japanese version makes a little more sense in terms of internal consistency. Doesn't really matter, but it's a cool little detail that I thought was worth exploring. We have wonderful dialogue that definitely marks the sequence of events coming up next, and we also have a full party for once, which is pretty cool. So, once I go ahead and make my way through these blue eaglets, I'm actually going to equip Marle with that dream bow, or the rainbow bow, or some super good weapon that I saw earlier. Wonderful. So that marks the end of that battle. Wow. Secret of the Forest is just so lush and so vibrant. I could listen to it for so long. Alright, 3 seconds is enough. This is an area where you actually come back later in the game, Xenon Bridge. There is actually a boss fight or two here, and it's pretty interesting to see how I can go to it really early in the game, even though the non-linear nature of this game is not quite kicking in there. Okay, I can avoid these guys pretty safely, just because apparently there are enough staged encounters that I don't need to worry about it. Let's see if I can use a triple tip. No, I can't, but I can use Fire Sword, which is always a treat to watch. Look at that. Reminds me of a technique out of Avatar somehow, just because you've got kind of this inferno of fire that just sweeps into the character in a really aesthetically pleasing way. So, once I finish up this green imp, and they're not just green either, there are a whole spectrum of colors of different imps I can actually get through here. And of course I got a couple of equipment that I think should be pretty interesting to me. That is to say, if I can actually equip it. Let's see. So nobody but Luca can equip those bits of equipment. That kind of sucks. But Marle does have an insane weapon, the Dream Bow, which I'm not sure if that's her ultimate weapon or not, but I know it's pretty darn good, especially for this segment in the game. Okay, we're going to proceed. That's something that's kind of confusing me in terms of what item the game tells me and what item is in my inventory, but it's something I'm going to get used to. Also, I like how the gate, it's usually like a blue-purplish shade, but in this case, it's actually green. And it reminds me kind of a Monster can or a Mountain Dew can or something like that. Interesting aesthetic for sure. I like this. And then we have our satanic Sonic over here saying, "No, please call me Marle." That's her real name. And then, of course, the Mountain Dew spills all over the ground, I guess, and that's our ticket home. I wonder if this is some kind of allegory for college students or something. I don't know. Because Chrono definitely looks about that age. Great. So we've got some more theoretical physics here. I've been reading about Feynman recently, and I don't necessarily think he would approve of this very unusual, very unintuitive phenomenon, even though he was a fan of such theories because they tend to be accurate. I always love this segue. It's just so mind-bendy and so twisty, and then it brings us back to the very charming present day. Cool. So, we got Satanic Sonic back, and we can actually break up the band now, because we just finished the first dungeon of the game. Great. Marle and Sonic. I've seen this before in an anime somewhere, but it's definitely going to get much, much more interesting. Okay, So we've got pretty much the same sites here as we did in part 1. We've got the Millennium Fair, and Chrono and Marle just hanging out with some very nice, very peaceful music in the background. Where am I supposed to be going? This track is called Peaceful Days, by the way. I'm just gonna hang out here for a little bit because it's so nice. And that's it, apparently, because I got myself into another track. How fun. Something interesting here that's just a minor detail is that Xenon Bridge, the thing that I was just standing on 400 years ago, is now completely built. So if I were to just wander down here, I could actually find a whole mass of land that wasn't there 400 years ago. So we've got a market, and I guess a reasonably small economy, and a snail shop? What in the world is this all about? Ah, yes, a woman named Fiona 400 years ago. So that lady actually gives you a side quest way later in the game. I might let some go for about 9,900 bucks. How about it? So I actually can't afford that, but that is our ticket into the side quest, should we feel like coming back later. Some monsters coexist with humans, just like that piano player. Let's see what he's got. Something upbeat, please. Oh yeah, I love this upbeat song. So you actually face a biker later on in the game. Like, you face him in a street race, and this is the music that plays. So I'm pretty excited for that. And then, let's see what a sad one is. Ooh, this one really tugs on my heartstrings. Let's go ahead and leave this place. Alright, and now we're back to the very peaceful, very relaxed music again. So this is the mayor's house, I believe. And if we go in here, the mayor is a huge jerk at this point in time. I'm so rich, I don't know what to do with it all. Give you 10 gold if you act like a chicken. Oh, absolutely. Here you go, 10 gold. I would have paid 10 gold to have seen that animation. And then we talk to his wife. The children are slipping away from us. And they hate their dad, I'm pretty sure. Ouch, dad loves money more than he loves me. It's like Boruto, but like prestige instead of money. The person I hate most? My dad, of course. Ouch. This scene is always interesting to me because this is actually a great way to show off one of the side quests that makes Chrono Trigger so interesting. So, this guy is definitely obsessed with money a little bit too much, right? And we can see it starting to corrode his family life. But if we take that jerky from the snail shop, we actually teach that guy a lesson, and he becomes too generous rather than too stingy. Definitely an interesting example of how time travel can help on the microscopic scale, and not just the macroscopic scale of, oh hey, we're saving the world. I kind of glossed over it earlier, but this quest is actually really, really interesting. So, you basically go to Poor Village, that is to say the mayor's house, in 600 AD, and then you buy stuffed jerky for quite an exorbitant price. I think it's actually like 10,000 gold or something crazy like that. So, you give the exorbitantly expensive jerky to the mayor's ancestor. She's like his great times 20 grandmother or something like that. And then, because she's so moved by Chrono and the whole party's generosity, she teaches her kids how to be generous and pay the favor forward, almost. So, then you travel to 1000 AD, and then the mayor, who is now generous, gives you a quest item because he's been taught that throughout the years. It's a tiny little Back to the Future-esque detail, but it's absolutely fascinating to me how Chrono and the gang, through time travel, directly impact a questline by changing the way a family functions over a time period of 400 years. That sort of little microscopic detail really cements the fact that Chrono Trigger isn't just about saving the world. It's also about saving people through the process of saving the world. So, we've got this really peaceful music playing. I don't actually remember what the track is called, but definitely very pretty. And, of course, the manor and the church from 400 years ago is completely gone. How interesting. It's like the trend in the modern day. Less religious, more secular. And in some places, crazily secular. So of course we've got Secret of the Forest playing here as well. And I really like this theme because it just conveys this sense of calm. The beginning of games nowadays, I feel like, are very frenzied, in the sense that they start off jam-packed with adventure. and you're always doing something crazy or the other to try and get either the player's attention, or critics' attention, or somebody's, in terms of trying to market the game. But Chrono Trigger is so peaceful when it starts out, so happy. And that tone can change, it does change. But it feels genuine in how it changes. Anyway, enough of that. So Chrono and Marle just learned an interesting new tech here called Aura Whirl. I'm excited for this one because you can totally abuse Aura Whirl and make boss fights a heck of a lot easier. And this is where the tone shifts. Are you alright? Where have you been? I heard you were abducted. And, of course, very conveniently, Chrono is green and purple. I can think of two people who are green and purple, the Riddler and Poison Ivy, and neither of them are necessarily kind people. So Chrono gets accosted. Oh boy. And this is where the game transitions from a very peaceful and free kind of tone to Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney. I love that jingle. It's so great. We just kind of stare at these guys, and then the camera pans down to Chrono on trial. I never thought I'd see a courtroom in a JRPG, but hey, this game is so special, right? I'm the Chancellor, the prosecutor. You could have sworn there was something about a person in authority not being a prosecutor, but hey, I don't think we're looking for a fair court experience. Alright, there's some dialogue that's going to come in, and some witnesses that are going to come in, but I think it's important to note that this is actually... What shall we do with him? Fire, perhaps? Hang him upside down? Or shall we employ the guillotine? Or the tickling machine? Oh, or is that in the SNES version? Okay, that might be in another version. This is the SNES version, but there is another version where they threaten him with the tickling machine. Anyway, so before I talk about Chrono being abducted, or being charged with abduction or not, I actually kind of want to answer something else. So, early on in part 1, I believe it was, I talked about how Marle's pendant was going to come into play, right? Whether you bump into Marle first, or whether you go and grab a pendant first. This is where it comes into play. So, did I kidnap Princess Nadia? No, I didn't. In fact, no abduction took place, because Nadia asked me. Who actually started this whole mess. Now, it's interesting because if you say Marle did, you get penalized. But if you say I did, you still get penalized. So, the jury will vote differently, but, well, we'll see what happens in the end. I started this whole mess, why not? The defendant deliberately tried to get near the princess. Very nice. Do I get read my rights in this court system, by the way? Like, does my testimony and confession actually mean something? If that wasn't criminal abduction, I don't know what is. Oh, he's got facts. He's got evidence. He's got testimony. My character is at the core of this case. I feel like this is not how you should run a courtroom, but hey, you know, what do I know? Have you ever stolen anything? No, I've never been a thief. Do not feign ignorance. We have a witness. And that witness is the very same poor old man from whom I stole a very tasty lunch. He ate my lunch right off the table. Yes, indeed. So, before I fought Gato, I ate that lunch just for laughs, and it healed my HP at the time, but now I'm totally being penalized for it. Really makes the world come alive. Okay, so that's one jury member. He didn't swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, so help him God, so I'm a little concerned about that. And then Pierre just kind of glosses over that, like, yeah, maybe he's a thief, but he's not a thief for valuables, only food. What about ransom? Oh boy, did her fortune tempt me? Nah. Are you sure? Not at all. That's enough, he's got no more questions. Both of these lawyers are absolutely atrocious. The prosecution definitely has a conflict of interest, and Pierre is just awful at defending Chrono. And here's where the jury comes in. Not guilty. Cool. So, I think it's actually very, very hard to get guilty jurors. You have to actually try. I remember watching a YouTube video once where somebody got all 7 guilty jurors, and I was like, wow, that's impressive. Not guilty. Alright, so that's 4 of them. And is that a majority? I think that's a majority. Alright, that's a majority. I am not guilty. Very nice. That's a 5th one. And that's the guy that corresponds to my stealing the old man's lunch. So the events in the game actually lead the jurors to decide guilty or not guilty. The old man's lunch is 1, looking at getting Marle's pendant before talking to her is 1, not waiting for her at the candy stand is 1, not giving the girl her little cat back is 1. There are a lot of really, really interesting consequences for very, very tiny actions. 3-day solitary confinement as punishment. What a court system. He's found not guilty, and yet punishment anyway. Why not? Wow. They take the worst parts of monarchy and the worst parts of democratic proceedings. That's definitely quite interesting. I'm pretty impressed at how Guardia manages to rule so much like a despot while keeping up the appearance of order. So we've got, I think, the only part in the game where Chrono's sprite actually looks downtrodden and disheveled. Very interesting there. Oh boy, this is my favorite part. This terrorist has tried to overthrow our kingdom! He has been found guilty, and you must now carry out his sentence. What is a sentence, you might ask? Execution! Do not let him out of your sight. How dare you question me? The paperwork's probably just been held up in the system. This is one heck of a system. I feel like the Chancellor is the kind of guy to say, hey, we gotta execute this guy, even though the trial said we weren't gonna execute him, but I'm not printing that out on paper, because we gotta save trees. I feel like the Chancellor is that kind of guy. Okay, so Chrono's over here in his jail cell. So you can go and eat a little something. I think. Oh, some sympathizers. I see, I'm a felon, even though I'm not guilty. One hell of a court proceeding. And one hell of a part as well. So, I think this part was pretty great, because I went from Yakra's castle, and then went all the way back into the present, went on some tangents about side quests, and then I was able to wrap it up by going to a very fair and very democratic trial, which was held by excellent lawyers and did not constitute any sort of offense against justice whatsoever. Every time I go through that part in the game, it gives me a pretty good laugh. The first time I played through the game, I was definitely quite indignant, but it becomes more funny than anything else. If you liked the video, maybe consider all the usual stuff, you know, liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing, all that jazz. Especially comments are super cool, just because it's nice to discuss how interesting of a game Chrono Trigger is, talk about the game mechanics, and all the little tiny details that go into this game and give it such heart and such power, even like 20 years after it's been released. So, that's pretty much it, I think. Peace.